First item on our agenda is the approval of our minutes from April 12th. Is there any comments or questions?
Roll call
Roll
first.
call. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I got to add that in there. I keep forgetting. Thank you. Go ahead, Katie.
All right. Commissioner Blakely.
Yes, here.
Chairman Bradley.
Present.
Commissioner Halley. Here. Commissioner Kine.
Present.
Commissioner Mobley is not here. Vice Chair Seitz.
Here.
And Commissioner Wells.
Here.
Now we can go to my approval of minutes from our April 12th meeting. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Blakely.
Yes.
Chairman Bradley.
Yes.
Commissioner Halley.
yes,
Commissioner Kine.
Yes.
Vice Chair Seitz.
Yes.
And Commissioner Wells.
Yes.
Next on our agenda is oral comments from the public. At this time, members of the public may be heard on any item of interest that is not on the agenda. Speakers addressing the commission will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Please be advised that by law, the commission is not able to deliberate or take actions on issues presented during the oral comments.
It appears we have no oral
I was
comments.
going to say, it appears nobody wants to make any comments at this time that are outside the agenda, so we'll move it on to our business at hand. The first item on our business is the continuation of the public hearing to consider a recommendation to the Fortuna City Council to amend the Fortuna Municipal Code regarding the state mandated procedures for SB 9 urban lot splits and 2-unit projects by amending Title 17. Zoning regulations of the Fortuna Municipal Code, Chapter 17.09, state mandated procedures in Title 16, subdivisions, Section 16.04.070, urban lot splits. I'm looking for a motion to continue this to our May 24th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
Chairman Bradley, I move that we table this item to the May 24th Planning Commission meeting.
I second that.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Blakely.
Yes.
Chairman Bradley.
Yes.
Commissioner Halley.
Yes,
Commissioner Kine.
Yes.
Vice Chair Seitz.
Yes.
And Commissioner Wells.
Yes.
Next on our item is a design review of the new hydrogen fuel station, including elevations, colors, landscaping, and signage. The applicant is A&S Engineering, Power Tap. This is APNS 200-363-043. The address is 1791 Riverwalk Drive. It's zoned for freeway commercial FC. Katie, at this time, do you have a presentation or? Okay, thank you.
And Katie, I just had a question. I take it Liz Shorey won't be with us tonight, correct? Okay.
So we have a design review of the new hydrogen fuel station. It includes elevations, colors, landscaping, and building signage. We have, this is the site here. It is the undeveloped portion of this is all one parcel here. There's the existing Shell station. Let's see. This is the street view of the parcel. So you can see the existing Shell station here. We have a crosswalk here, and the driveway will be over here, so it won't be impeding on the crosswalk. There's some existing landscaping that will be enhanced as part of the development. They're going to have a fuel dispenser, a canopy, there'll be a fuel storage station in the northeast corner, a split-face block trash enclosure. There'll be new paving, new landscaping, and in the setback areas. And there will also be an addition to the sign. It is principally permitted, you can see it's in the freeway commercial zone, so it is principally permitted in the freeway commercial zone. It only needs to go through design review, and then it will go through the building permit process. This is the site plan that you all received in your packet, and it's got some details that describe the new additions and the existing infrastructure that's there. These are the elevations for the fuel station itself. You can see that it's mainly going to be clad in aluminum, and then there'll be this CMU block wall to the rear separating it. There's also some locking removable bollards for protection along the front. It's got these great little bubbles that give it some character. It's got the slanted sort of shed roof here. Nice bright colors that should look great down at Riverwalk. And then we have some more elevations. These are the pumps themselves. As Liz stated in the staff report, it is a futuristic, whimsical design reminiscent of Googie architecture. So it's got this sort of shed-shaped roof with the nice little points here. And they're carrying an on-the-bubble theme to the dispensers themselves. This is a larger version of the site itself, so it'll be lit up nicely at night. As part of the resolution, the lighting is required to not shine onto neighboring properties as usual with our design reviews. And then we've got the daylight view here. This is the sign. This was not included in the packet, but this is an existing sign. It's the Shell sign, so they've got a couple of versions here. They'll add their signage to the bottom, and then this one just calls out that they also have diesel pumps at the Shell, so there'll be a wide variety of fuels available down there now. And then they're going to include new landscaping. There's some existing here where the sign currently exists, and then they'll be adding new landscaping along the eastern property line. There's an existing business here that has trees also that are there, but they'll be enhancing that with some nice shrubs, adding some trees along the front and some trees in the rear, and then also additional landscaping to the north of the parcel to screen between the neighboring businesses and parcels and this parcel. And that's it. Do you guys have any questions?
Anybody have any questions of Katie?
Yes.
I do not.
We do have, the applicants are here, and they have a presentation. If you have no questions for me, then I'll go ahead and load up their presentation, and they can go through that as well.
I understand somebody's going to be remoting in with this as well. Okay, would appreciate if they introduce themselves for the minutes too when that time comes, okay? Okay, thank you.
While they're doing that, I'll just back. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Ahmad Gaderi with ANS Engineering. We're the consulting engineering firm for this project. And first of all, I want to thank Katie and your staff. They have been fantastic from day one when we started this project. And the product that you see before you is their great work and guidance through this process. As your staff indicated, the proposed project is located on the vacant property to the east of the existing Shell station. And its proposal is for the hydrogen producing facility. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the first hydrogen fueling facility of large capacity for vehicles, for cars. And the improvements consist of a brand new structure, which basically encloses the equipment that's being proposed, a brand new canopy with 2 dispensers that cater to 4 vehicles at any one time. And the proposed layout, as I mentioned, with the guidance of your staff, meets and exceeds the setbacks, landscaping, the height, the colors, all the aspects of your zoning code development requirements. And as staff indicated, all the equipment will be enclosed as required by your design guidelines. And one of the items that we, as indicated by staff, the parcel being next to the Shell station, the way it's designed, it has its own, driveway access to the property. So it's dedicated access for the vehicles to come in through that driveway. They can also, access it from the Shell station. But we just wanted to have its own unique identity, access, and what have you. And I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I will in a second. Yeah, sorry. And the architectural intent of the building was to provide a clean, artistic, modern design with its own identity. As you can see, the colors and the image of the canopy and what have you caters to the power tap, and we'll get into more of a power tap's identity and all that in a little bit. We have, reviewed all the conditions. We've spoken to your fire marshal, and we have no problem with complying with all the conditions. And tonight, this afternoon, with me, I have Mr. Don Johnson, who's representing the property ownership. Mr. Salim Ramtullah, he's with PowerTap, and we have all our 4 consultants on the phone, and a technical consultant as well to answer any questions you might have. At this time, if you have any questions, we're here to, and we have also passed out a little more, you have these packets in front of you that gives a little more definition and description of the project and some background on PowerTap and the future of hydrogen fuel and the fact that we're very excited to be doing this with the first one in your city, and hopefully with your approval we get to do that. So thank you, and I'm here to answer your questions. And Salim, I don't know if you wanted to make some comments or wait to.
If you'd like me to go through the slide deck, I could. Give you a little bit more color.
I'm not opposed to it. Anybody else have any concerns or comments on that?
I'm eager to learn more.
Yeah.
I have one brief question here. You said it was the first one in Fortuna. Are there others in Humboldt County?
Well, this is the first one.
This first one? Okay.
So planning commissioners, staff, thank you for the opportunity to give you a little bit more color about our PowerTap hydrogen fueling station. So PowerTap Hydrogen Fueling Corporation has a parent company, PowerTap Hydrogen Capital Corporation. It's on the NEO in Canada, so a Canadian company. We're based in Irvine, California, and you can see we're on the NEO, the OTC, and the Frankfurt Stock Exchange as well. So the parent company, PowerTap Hydrogen Capital Corporation, has made several investments in different renewable energies, primarily in hydrogen. So plastic waste, bio waste, natural gas, which is what we're doing in conjunction with renewable natural gas, and water through electrolysis to hydrogen. And our main focus as PowerTap Hydrogen Fueling Corp is to produce on-site hydrogen. So everything is done on-site, so there's no transport of hydrogen to the site. We're also partnered with the Andretti Group. I mentioned the ownership of the site, Don Johnson here, and it's a great partnership. We're getting the opportunity to put our first large capacity station of 1,250 kilograms of hydrogen per day at your friendly city, in the city of Fortuna. That will be the first station in Humboldt County, and we have another station that we're looking at in the future in Eureka, and at other Andretti-owned properties in Northern California and up in Oregon as well. And we actually sponsored an Indy car for last season, this season, and next season as well. So it's really exciting to see our PowerTap hydrogen vehicle on the racetrack. So I wanted to go through just a little bit of an idea of what hydrogen is all about as it compares to battery electric vehicles and gas and diesel vehicles as well. So there are a few things that you can see comparisons of. There's a lot of comparability between what you get with fueling a gas vehicle and a hydrogen vehicle. You can see they're very similar comparisons. Of course, the key issue is that we don't have any emissions as a part of our hydrogen production because we're using a blend of natural gas and renewable natural gas to get 0 to negative carbon intensity, and then we're capturing the carbon at the back end of the process. The key thing that it gives you as a hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicle owner is a very short refueling time of 5 to 10 minutes, comparable to what you'd get with a car, and the kinds of ranges you'd expect from that as well, about 300 to 400 miles. Now, there are no fuel cell electric vehicles in Humboldt County, and there's an obvious reason. There are no stations to provide the fuel for them. So this is an opportunity to bring fuel cell electric vehicles to Humboldt County, and Fortuna would be the first. So I mentioned that we're producing 0 to negative carbon intensity hydrogen, and you can see there's a definition there of what that is, and it's the amount of CO2 you produce per unit of electric energy that you generate. And so that's definitely a hallmark of what we're producing here. In the current regime, there's compressed store dispense stations in the LA area, LA Orange County, the Bay Area, Sacramento, and there are a couple of new stations in San Diego, and they're producing gray hydrogen, meaning that it does have carbon intensity. So we're bringing 0 to negative carbon intensity here, and then we're capturing any carbon that comes out of the back end. We've got some really great regional support from the RCEA, which I understand the City of Fortuna is a member, and also HTA as well. And they're really excited to use our stations, hopefully, to fuel up their future fuel cell electric buses. These are the stations that we have currently in place that use our technology. These are smaller capacity stations, 50 kilogram and 100 kilogram stations. And the 100 kilogram station is near LAX. Again, it has our technology and it is serving cars, but what we're doing is we're bringing a size of 1,250 kilograms of hydrogen per day, which is a definite increase over the 100 kilograms that the LAX station can provide. And just to give you a little bit more color about what the future holds for fuel cell electric vehicles, it's not just cars, it's trucks and buses as well. Right now there are 48 stations I mentioned earlier that are open in that compressed store dispense model I mentioned, and there are 23 funded and in development for the future. None of those are in Humboldt County with the exception of ours, which you'll see in Fortuna, of course, hopefully. The expectation from the California governor is that we have 200 stations by 2025. I'm on the California Hydrogen Business Council, and we're trying to promote 1,000 stations by 2030. And that's what the industry vision as well is. And we expect that if everything lines up as it should, there will be 1 million fuel cell electric vehicles on the roads in the next decade or so. There are a number of of OEMs that have put out cars that are on the streets right now. There are 12,000 fuel cell electric vehicles in California. Clearly not here, but definitely in other parts of the state. And we've got BMW coming out with a vehicle soon, and then we have a series of truck manufacturers that are putting their trucks on the road. You might have heard about Nikola, new OEM, and they put out their first 2 test vehicles. So it's exciting to see that kind of come together. And you can see the locations of the stations on the map there. I'll switch to just talking about our station and a few of the things that you can look forward to. This is a sort of a ground view. You've got the existing convenience store on the left, and of course our hydrogen production station in the background, and then our canopy with 2 dispensers in the forecourt. And the key thing to bring out on this slide is that as it relates to our lighting, we're meeting the specifications that are identified in the Fortuna design considerations, and those are so LED lighting that we're using, and then down lighting, again along the lines of what Katie mentioned, not shining light on any of the adjacent properties, and then concealed lighting. And I think that's sort of those are the aspects that we're really focused on. I think it creates a very nice look for us and for the city of Fortuna. And we highlight the sign just in this particular view. We've gotten some input from Don here that we shouldn't really have black. I think it's going to wear pretty quickly and not be very readable. So there may be some adjustments. We'll make the color, and we'll submit those when we submit the building permit plans. So I've identified a few things, and rather than go through all of them here, I'll go through them slide by slide. So we'll have a new entrance drive that we've had some initial discussions on and got some clearance on. It'll be not in conflict with the other driveways adjacent to the property. You mentioned that there'd be a new sign on the freeway signage. And you'll see there will be connectivity to the existing station with the 2 areas in front of the shell canopy, and then sort of closer to the street in front of the canopy. And identifying the canopy here with 2 pumps, 4 hoses, and the ability to produce hydrogen for 24 vehicles per hour and up to 250 vehicles per day. And I mentioned earlier that the capacity of the station is 1,250 kilograms per day, a total of about 456,000 kilograms per year. I didn't mention, but hydrogen is typically loaded in kilograms as opposed to in gallons. That's the best way to really identify the capacity of it. Generally, each vehicle has about 5 kilograms of capacity on them. And that 5 kilograms takes you that 300-mile to 400-mile range. And that's the extent of my presentation. If you have any questions, stand by.
I have a question. How was Fortuna selected as the first site in our area? Did people here recruit you folks, or were you looking at Fortuna ahead of time?
We worked with the Andretti Group to identify station locations, and this was one of the first stations that came up. And it's one where the configuration worked the best. And that kind of ties into the speed with which we're able to bring it to the table.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the Andretti-owned properties? Are they always Shell stations, or Shell and other aligned,
Don, maybe you can-
similar brands?
We're multi-branded. We have Chevron 76, Shell, unbranded as well. We go from Soledad, California to Tillamook, Oregon, as far as, and we have about 100 stations. So this is the first one, and we're looking forward to doing a few more, that's for sure.
I'm just curious, I know in your presentation you said by 2030 that you're supposed to hopefully have around 1 million cars that are doing the, what was it called, FCE?
Fuel cell electric vehicles.
Yeah. What are currently on the road now?
So the three brands that you'll see on the road in LA and San Francisco Bay Area are the Toyota Mirai, the Hyundai Nexo, and the Honda Clarity. Each one of those, in the Nexo and the Clarity, come in battery electric as well. The Toyota Mirai stands alone as a hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicle.
So are there other fuel cell type locations from here down towards San Francisco? Because you said the range is 300 to 400 miles, so I'm just seeing it. This is, I know you're kind of getting ahead of the game for the northern side, but there's got to be something in between, right?
There is, and so that will be something that we'll be working on to create other stations. So it's a first, we have got to create a network, and that's the only way that this is gonna work.
Got it.
long-term. But I think the real key thing to bring out is that with the need for, zero carbon fueling solutions, there's definitely momentum behind us.
I have a question. The three models of cars that you mentioned, like, let's take the Honda and the Toyota. Are these small sedans? Are they, traditional economy-sized cars, or are they small SUVs, or?
So I would say that the Nexo is sort of in the range of a small SUV, but even just a bit smaller. The Toyota Mirai is a sedan, and so is the Honda Clarity.
Okay, thanks.
I think the real sort of way that fuel cell electric vehicles will work the best are long hauls. So if you're going on a good long trip, and then you'd choose a fuel cell electric vehicle over a battery electric vehicle, for example.
Do you see any interface with the car rental companies and airport, things like that, in relationship to our Fortuna station?
Well, that's interesting. We are working with some rental car agencies, but those are at the larger airports.
Okay.
I mean, if it works well at LAX, for example, then yeah, I can see that expanding out to the other sites.
You had mentioned that Humboldt Transit Authority was excited with their hopefully future bus lines. How much production would you need to fill one, typical bus?
So we can make the comparison to a fuel cell electric truck, which typically has 40 kilograms in a tank. So that's probably similar to what you'll see in a fuel cell electric bus.
Any other questions or comments?
I just have a comment. I appreciate the battery life of 10 years rather than 3 years for the electric car. I just noticed that. I like that.
And I want to just tell you a little sidebar note that my father-in-law, who's an engineer, we were talking about the fuel cars and electric cars and that, and I was commenting, and we were talking about it literally 3 weeks ago before this presentation about what happened to the hydrogen vehicles. We haven't heard anything about them for a while, then here we have this tonight, so I just want to say thank you for that,
Yes.
because that's something I'm
Thank you, appreciate that.
kind of a green guy, and I kind of like seeing this, so.
That's great. Just to clarify, though, Commissioner Haley, Hallie, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that the life of a battery electric, sort of the battery itself is 10 years, and it's 30 years for fuel cell electric vehicles.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I have another question. Will this be the most rural location that you'll have to date?
To date,
Yeah.
as well.
Any thoughts? Can you share a little more on that?
So what's really interesting is the Schatz Energy Center had the very first hydrogen fuel cell electric station, and that was Humboldt County. I mean, I think that foretold the future, I guess. Working with Toyota, I think they're excited to have some growth in their market. And connectivity to the state of Oregon is probably pretty good for the future. So this is the start of a real important infrastructure.
When you've gone in on other news stations, the other ones that are existing, what was the most common criticism that you had to answer?
So I want to ask Mr. Patel, Panakan, are you there on the line? No, maybe he can hear us.
Salim, I'm sorry, but I wasn't able to reach Panakan, unfortunately.
Okay, no worries. So Panakan and his team had a station in Fountain Valley that they operated for 3 years. And so I thought it would be good to talk to somebody who actually operated a station. I think the most important concern is all the stuff you hear about hydrogen that we dispelled, right, in the operations of a facility like that. There's tremendous safety that's been put in place through the various codes and specifications, and, we'll clearly meet all those codes and specifications. It's a very safe fuel, especially when you compare it to sort of petroleum products that end up on the ground and are very flammable. Not so much with hydrogen. Hydrogen tends to flow upward. It doesn't accumulate on the ground, which is kind of an important thing.
Good. Anyone else?
I just wanted to see, since you would be manufacturing the hydrogen on site, what would be the sound from the machinery or anything of that nature?
Sure, the loudest sound you'd have is, the compressors, because we do have to compress to a very high pressure, 700 bar in particular. And we'll have sound shielding to prevent any sort of loss of that noise outside of the site. And that's kind of, you'll see why we have the high walls. And so we've contained that any noise that might come from it. In any case, it is much less than the typical 70 CNEL, which it meets the standards that you'd expect in a city.
So at the risk of stating the obvious, I mean, as soon as this goes in, our Honda dealership, Toyota dealership have incredible incentive to be selling these new models of hydrogen cars, correct?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, actually, or a good point. Each of those car manufacturers I mentioned are offering $15,000 fuel cards that enable you to, cover your fuel for 3 years. That's the current kind of, sort of benefits you're getting. And, so if you bought a $50,000 car, it ends up being in the range of about $25,000 to $30,000.
Can things like trash trucks be can you have a hydrogen-powered trash truck as well? Garbage truck? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's very similar to the way a bus or truck would operate in terms of the engine and the fuel cell electric part of it.
Even a tractor trailer?
Absolutely.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
And really, when you look at it, for long-haul kinds of uses, specifically in the maritime use, aviation use, hydrogen is going to be a player for sure. Because it has the capabilities.
Are there incentives for other equipment too, like say logging equipment up in the woods, things like that, or not?
I don't think there are.
Okay.
But that's something that, we can look into for sure.
Just curious, thank you.
Well, we appreciate your presentation today and your time. Anybody else have any other questions or comments?
No, I like the aesthetics of it. It looks very futuristic. I like that a lot. It is a kilogram instead of a gallon, I'm sorry.
Yes, kilogram is.
And what does a kilogram of this cost approximately?
Right now, a kilogram is costing at as low as $12 per kilogram. So if it's a fill of 5 kilograms, that's a $60 fill.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we'll bring it back up here then. Any action anybody wants to take on this tonight? Yes, sir. We'll entertain a motion.
Chairman Bradley, I would like to make the motion to approve the proposed design with conditions described in the attached Planning Commission Resolution P 2022-3085.
I'll second.
All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Blakely.
Yes.
Chairman Bradley.
Yes.
Commissioner Hallie.
Yes.
Commissioner Kind.
Yes.
Vice Chair Seitz.
Yes.
And Commissioner Wells.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Next thing on our agenda, I'm sorry. Next thing on our agenda is the public consideration of FY 2022-2023, the 5-year capital improvement program, consistency with the general plan, which we also call the CIP. And I understand that our city manager is here tonight, who is going to share with us some highlights on the packet that we have today.
And actually, our Public Works Director, Brendan Bird, will be presenting this.
I'm
And
sorry.
yeah, and you might recognize Brendan from past meetings. He was our city engineer and as of recently was promoted to our Public Works Director. So
Okay.
pleased that Brendan will be here to present that.
Thank you, Merritt. Appreciate that.
All right, good evening, Chair Bradley and fellow members of the Planning Commission. Like Meredith mentioned, I'll be here to present the draft 2022-23 fiscal year capital improvement program. Thank you. All right, so I wanted to start briefly here just with a little bit of kind of a presentation overview, just to kind of give you an idea of what I'd like to be speaking about this evening. I'm going to start out with a little bit of a background of the CIP and what we're doing here tonight, talking about the capital improvement program. And then I'd like to jump right into projects, which is what the capital improvement program is all about. I'll touch briefly on some projects that we completed construction or design on in this past year. Look at some of the projects that we decided to add this year in this particular capital improvement program. Touch on some construction projects that we hope to break ground or begin within the next 12 months that would be covered by this particular capital improvement program. And then also touch a little bit on some projects that are in design as well, which is another important aspect of the projects that we perform on a regular basis as a city. I'll end with a staff recommendation and, of course, answer any questions that the commission may have. So a background on the CIP. As you noted, the CIP stands for Capital Improvement Program. And what this really is, it's a tool to assist local agencies in planning, budgeting, developing and implementing various infrastructure maintenance projects and capital and capacity improving projects. A CIP is developed typically by city staff, whether that's in the Public Works Department or various other departments. Could include parks or the city manager's office as well. But we develop it annually as part of the budget process using the knowledge of our infrastructure and the maintenance needs that we have in the city. And additionally, we also use the findings of other master plans or studies or policies or goals that help kind of guide the development and maintenance and improvement of our infrastructure as well. And to touch a little bit on why we're here speaking about it this evening, given that the capital improvement program must reflect the long-range plans and policies of the city's general plan, it must be found consistent with the general plan year by year at the budget process by the Planning Commission prior to going to the City Council for acceptance. So I'd like to start here on the project side, talking about the projects that we completed construction on in its complete nature in 2021 and 22. So we had 5 projects that we closed the books on and pulled out of this year's capital improvement program. The first, we completed our Drake Hill Water Pump House Drainage Project, which was a project that our internal general services crew was able to complete, which was wonderful. We completed the wastewater treatment plant anaerobic digester maintenance project, which included interior and exterior rehabilitation improvements to a very important piece of infrastructure at the wastewater plant. We are actually currently finishing up a Tesla battery pad and installation at the city's municipal water well site, which we call CCF. We completed a planning study, which is the local road safety plan, which is kind of like a safety master plan for the city's roads and pedestrian and bike facilities as well, and it really will help inform future projects that are included in CIPs in the future, as well as help guide the city in its ability to acquire grants for these types of projects as well. And lastly, and probably the biggest project that most folks were able to see this last year, we completed the Redwood Way reconstruction project, which included pretty much reconstructing about 0.8 of a mile of Redwood Way in between the Safeway area and Ronerville Road, in addition to being able to provide various bicycle and pedestrian improvements as part of the project. So, as I had mentioned before, the capital improvement program is not only to help guide the projects we do, but also how we budget for them, where we collect monies and how we kind of take that into the budget tool. I would like to note over here in the column on the right, I was very pleased to see as we closed out projects this year that we have continued to consistently deliver projects at or below budget in a lot of cases, which means we're doing our due diligence and really seeing how much we think things are going to cost and delivering things at that cost consistently.
Nice.
So moving to the projects that were added in the capital improvement program that you have in draft form in your staff report tonight, we have 7 major projects that were added, and I just want to touch briefly on all of them right here. A few of them, I've provided some pictures in this slideshow. I can talk about them in a little bit more detail. First, we have added a water project for a water line replacement on Orchard Lane, which was a staff-identified need in addition to a request from the Measure E Committee. We have also added a couple of wastewater projects. One is a sewer line replacement for a failed sewer line that our utilities crew recently discovered while performing their inspection activities with their sewer camera, as well as a project to upgrade the PLC at our wastewater treatment plant, which is kind of the brains, the computer, the programming part of the operation for what is a pretty complex piece of infrastructure.
Do you mind if I ask where that was at? Do you mind if I ask where that was at? Where the location of that sewer pipe that was discovered?
It was P Street in between Garden and 9th Street. Yeah. So it's not fully failed yet. It's reaching the end of its useful life, though.
I guess you have it up there, don't you?
Yeah. But P Street's, of course, longer than that. So the particular portion of it we're talking about is in between those 2 streets. Moving on to a couple of exciting parks projects that we've added this year. The first is the Roner Park Basketball Court Rehabilitation Project. We're looking at taking the single basketball court as it exists in Roner Park and reconstructing and reconfiguring it into 2 side-by-side courts, as kind of shown in this little picture over here. That would include a little courtyard as well, and some fencing and some nice backboards and other amenities there to make it more of, you know, a nice facility for multiple users to use, as well as a destination for the folks that are, you know, want to watch the games or otherwise hang around the basketball courts. Another one we have added this year is the Newburgh Park Expansion Project. In the last few months, the city was finally able to acquire the 8 acres of land adjacent to Newburgh Park that's kind of on the south end of the property there that was previously owned by the McLean Foundation. The staff will be moving forward with doing some survey and some design work there to start implementing portions of the city's Newburgh Park master plan, which would include adding some regulation soccer fields, adding additional parking off of Ronerville Road there, in addition to some trails that could meander along the creek and ultimately connect in with the McLean trails that they have been able to build around their ponds. Moving on to some of our major streets projects we have added. This year we've added what we call the 12th Street Interchange Modernization Project, which is the reconfiguration of the interchange and the intersection of 12th Street and Newburgh Road into a roundabout in the future. This is an area where we have identified, you know, we have collisions, we have safety concerns there. It has issues with queuing and backing up during peak times. Staff identified a number of years ago in a planning study that we need to address that issue. And the city was able to acquire about $1 million in state transportation improvement program funding through Caltrans, and we'll be moving forward with preliminary design and environmental documentation on that project here shortly. And then lastly, we've added a systematic project, which we're calling the Intersection Improvement Project. The city is in need of upgrading our cabinetry and signal hardware, just a lot of the components of the current signalized intersections we have in the city. And so,
Brendan, do you want to run through the image that you have up there for the 12th Street?
Oh, yeah,
project?
absolutely. Yeah, sorry about missing that. Of course, this is probably one of the more interesting photos right here. This is actually a simulation that was done on the proposal we received from a consultant that proposed on the project that will be moving forward with an award recommendation here shortly. But generally, that shows the roundabout as it exists between, here's Clendenin's right here. This is kind of Newburgh Road as it goes in its current alignment. The railroad comes through here. But what we'd be looking at is gathering the on and off ramps of Highway 101 in addition to the overpass, and then realigning portions of 12th Street and Newburgh Road to bring that ultimately into this roundabout feature. There'd be some other tie-ins with Pond Street over here where Sequoia Gas operates some operations right there. And then there'd be a realignment of this existing portion of Newburgh Road just to serve, the residential neighborhoods there. So this is just kind of a photo simulation as it exists right now. It's not necessarily based on design, but it's a nice representation of what we'd be looking at doing in this project. So moving on from the projects that were removed and added from the plan this year, I wanted to touch briefly on some of the upcoming 2022-23 construction projects, things that folks may see happening around town over the next 12 months. We have a full slate, and it's going to be a fun and busy 12 months with a lot of projects and a lot of diversity in what we're going to be working on. I'll start just briefly running through a couple of these here. We'll be doing some improvements at our Vansel Reservoir, including some selective timber thinning for maintenance reasons, in addition to some drainage improvements and some new fencing. We'll be continuing our CCF piping and well replacement project. Last year, the city was able to install a new municipal water well down at our well field site on Eel River Drive, which is a great well and is producing a lot more than the failing one that it went in and replaced. We'll be continuing that project to do some additional piping, some other ancillary improvements, including a structure and some things that we need to in order to bring that well actually online as part of the city system. We'll be recoating a few of the city's water tanks in addition to doing some interior spot improvements as well. We are out to bid, and hopefully soon we'll be moving forward with installing some emergency generators at some of our key water booster stations that are critical to fill up our tanks and keep everybody with water during emergencies or power outages. Next summer, we're hoping to move forward with our Prop 1 LID 12th Street project, which is a project that we'll be doing principally with a grant the city received from Prop 1 and the State Water Board that is going to include installing a number of rain gardens and extending the storm drain pipe up 12th Street. It's going to help address some of the gutter flooding issues we have on 12th Street, in addition to help us comply with some of the state mandates that we'll be having to deal with through the Regional Water Quality Control Board, specifically with our trash capture requirements. As always, we'll be continuing forward with our citywide paving and concrete project, which delivers several improvements I'm sure we've all seen. The new paving on Riverwalk or 12th Street or Newburgh or various places on Ronerville Road will be coming up and thinking of some new locations that we can do in this coming year. We'll be doing what we call our ADA barrier removal project, which is going to be a number of sidewalk infills and accessibility projects and ADA access for various areas throughout the city. Some of the bigger ones we're going to be doing is some sidewalk infill and some path of travel connectivity in between the bus stop on N Street and the library. And we're also going to be doing a pretty significant project at the rodeo grounds at the entrance to put an ADA ramp up there to make some connectivity between the entrance of the rodeo grounds and the pavilion, and also putting a landing up top and ultimately connecting a lot of the ticket booth area with the ADA improvements that was done by the Rodeo Association previously in the grandstands. We'll be moving forward with the Roner Park basketball courts project that I previously had mentioned. Right now, we're kind of in the design phase, looking at putting together our contract documents, and we hope to have that out to bid within the next 4 to 6 weeks, and we'd love to see that project go to construction this year. And then last but not least, and one of our biggest and longest running projects that the city has wanted to deliver some time is our police facility replacement project. Recently, or I guess in the last couple of years, the city was able to acquire the old EPT building at the corner of Newburgh and Ronerville Road. Since then, we've been in various stages of design with our consultants to work on plans for what the remodel and the rehabilitation of that site will be to have it change from a physical therapy location with a pool to be a fully functioning and standalone police facility for the city's police. Lastly, I wanted to touch just on a few other projects just to kind of keep everybody in the know on some of the other things that we work on with the capital improvement program that aren't necessarily construction projects right now, but this is some of the background stuff that we do, whether it's master planning or other design that leads to projects. So I just wanted to touch briefly on the first two bulleted items here. We are currently working on a sanitary sewer master plan and a stormwater infrastructure assessment, which is essentially a master plan. These are two projects we're undertaking right now where we have consultants on board. We're going to be doing various inspection and analyses of our existing infrastructure. These are the types of assessments we undertake that really, at the end of it, we end up with a pretty clear idea of where some of our system deficiencies are, where some of our maintenance issues are, and we come out of it with some recommended projects and budgetary numbers to do those. Doing these types of projects is what's going to inform our CIP in future years and allow us to be able to budget for those necessary improvements. And then I wanted to touch again on some of these projects down here. These are two of our larger current projects in design that will be going to construction hopefully in the next 3 to 5 years. The first is the city's wastewater treatment plant upgrade project, which is going to be installing some treatment upgrades at the city's existing facility, in addition to rearranging or changing the city's current summertime treated effluent discharge location. We are in design for that project right now, and we hope to be going to construction in 2024 or 2025. And then lastly, similar to the 12th Street project we had touched on, we are currently in preliminary design and environmental for interchange improvements to the Kenmar and 101 interchanges as well, which is another area where we have some pretty significant queuing and backup and safety issues. Additionally there, we hope to be done with preliminary design and environmental by the beginning of 2023, so we can start to position ourselves for some of the upcoming infrastructure spending that we're all kind of foreseeing coming down the pipeline. So with that, kind of concluding talking about projects, I wanted to end with my staff recommendation here, which is that the commission make a finding that the proposed fiscal year 22-23 5-year capital improvement program is consistent with the general plan. And with that, I'm of course happy to answer any questions, and thank you very much for the time.
Appreciate your presentation. Great job. Anyone have questions or comments?
I have a question. On the proposal for the Kenmar interchange, what will happen to the railroad tracks that go through Kenmar right now?
You know, that's a really interesting question, and it's evolved as we've gone through the project. You know, we started on this several years ago before the kind of the Great Redwood Trail Act had come to fruition, and some of the original guidance at that time was to plan for the rail lines to be preserved and to go right through the middle of it. A lot of that has changed since we've started with this project, and the current direction we've received from NCRA and Caltrans is to plan for it to be the Great Redwood Trail. And what that's going to look like someday in the future is the trail's going to come up the existing rail alignment, and we'll connect through a series of crosswalks and sidewalks and things of that nature as it moves through the roundabout area, ultimately going on the other side. So the tracks will be removed in that area, and then there'll be a way for, you know, the trail to connect and navigate through the intersection there.
So the trail could be moved over several feet, yards, whatever. Correct?
Yeah, the trail would generally be constructed within the NCRA right-of-way, which I think is about 50 feet, and these trails tend to be 12 to 15 feet wide, depending on how much, you know, they need to do in order to build the trail. But we'd probably, we'd be looking at picking it up somewhere generally around the roundabout, and then again navigating through in a way that's, you know, safe and appropriate.
Anyone else?
I had one other small question. What is the side of the police facility? It looks like it's some sort of brick wall that is out toward Runnerville Road.
This. I'm not sure I follow the question.
Well, it just looks, the picture of it, the mock-up is kind of interesting.
Oh.
It's a 6-foot tall concrete masonry unit wall, and then it has indentations that'll allow for landscaping to go on the outside of it. And then it'll have a security features on the top. That'll be some spikes so people can't climb it.
So it's a wall, but they kind of made it that it's not just one run.
Yes.
They made inlets in the blocks where you can have trees or bushes or whatever.
That's right. And then it'll probably have some architectural features, like it'll be split face block. It may have a nice kind of cap with a security feature on the top. So and I don't think that's the specific color. We're still working on the final design, but we were trying to make it so that it looked more aesthetically pleasing and wasn't just a big wall along Runnerville Road.
That's great. I just,
Yeah.
the inlets, as you call them, or I called them, that was what threw me. And the purpose of that wall is for security, correct? Or is it sound reduction, or?
Security for the most part, you know, and you can see the front of the building in the rendering that's down below. There'll be, I mean, that's not final. You can see the signs down low. That'll move up top on the tower. That part of the building where the hot tub was when it was EPT, if anybody's familiar with that, that'll be a conference room area. So we're going to make the windows actually a little shorter than they show there. They'll be about 2.5-foot windows, and they'll be pushed all the way to the top. You know, in a police department, you really want to have security where people can't see in. So it'll all be one-way windows. And again, in the portion behind the wall to be the executive offices, evidence vault, some of those things. So security is a primary driver in some of the design. So the exposed portion, it doesn't show where it shows green. There'll be some boulders and other types of landscaping. There wasn't a landscaping design when this was done, but really just to make it so somebody can't drive into the building. So there's a lot of details that still had to be worked out. This is an earlier rendering.
And another question, any updates on I saw in the packet that it's to be determined where the funding source will be for restaining or painting the River Lodge?
Yeah, we haven't identified that yet, so that'll come out of maintenance funds. I don't think it's in the CIP currently. But
No, yeah, the funding source in the CIP hasn't been identified, and it wasn't recommended for a project as Measure E. So I know that Cameron, our Parks Director, and Park staff are looking at other opportunities to find funding for
So-
that maintenance project.
Likely it'll be general fund. One of the other options that we're pursuing is we've been working with the Fortuna Lodging Alliance and to see if we can get a grant to help do some more of the maintenance projects in the past. They've been really good. They paid for the sound system. They paid for bark and landscaping. And so that's one of the requests that we'll make of the Lodging Alliance to assist with that project.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I believe we need a motion to move this forward to the city council, right?
There's specific recommendations in there, so it's consistency with the city's general plan. Brendan, would you mind reviewing those one more time?
Yeah, I can bring it up right here, and I believe this is taken from the staff report.
And it's on
Page 21.
21. Thank you, Katie.
Mr. Chair, do we also need to take public comment? Do we have to open this up tonight or not?
Yeah, we should open it up for public comment. Unfortunately, I don't see anybody here in the public, so I think I'll table that. And then we'll just put it back up here to the dais here, and I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we receive staff's CIP presentation and make a finding that the proposed FY 2022-23 5-year capital improvement program is consistent with the general plan.
I second that.
All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Blakely?
Yes.
Chairman Bradley?
Yes.
Commissioner Hallie?
Yes.
Commissioner Kine?
Yes.
Vice Chair Sights?
Yes.
And Commissioner Wells?
Yes.
Great presentation. Thank you again.
Very good.
Appreciate your time. I know
Yes.
you guys are busy, and being here a little late at a given day is always appreciated. Do we have any other things on our agenda from the staff tonight?
We do have just the staff communication. We don't have anything pressing to communicate at this time. The May 24th Planning Commission meeting is up in the air at the moment. We have some rather large projects that aren't quite ready to go, and they likely won't be ready to go by the end of this week, which would be when we would need to notice them. So
Okay.
if that does get canceled, I will send out an email and let everybody know, and then we'll be back in June.
What about our special meeting again?
Special meeting, the next special meeting is May 17th at 2 o'clock, so we'll send out an agenda at the end of this week. And then if you cannot attend, or actually, it'd probably be better if everybody can just respond to the email and let me know that you are or you aren't, even if you are coming, please.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, we do need a majority or a quorum
Yes.
to hold this meeting because they are officially now public. And if we don't have 4 people, then we need to let our staff know so they're not making all these preparations and wasting their time that could be used in other areas.
I'm going to be out of town, so I won't be here.
Merritt, did you have something you wanted?
I just wanted to understand the subject of the special meeting, and so it sounds like it's discussing parking.
It's one of the items on
Yeah.
the agenda. It's been the primary one initially, so. And I think we've had a couple other things discussed that's not as pressing, but we're trying to tie that in with the SB 9 and a few other things like that with some of the things we see foreseeably in the future. Okay? If there's nothing else, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Chairman Bradley, I move that we adjourn.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you very much.